the video for this week, and this week our book is one that was inspired from our long watching of movies. It is a book that inspired or partly inspired one of the movies that I watched. So I will tell you about that in a minute. But before we start, remember, if you would like to support this channel and you enjoy our videos, there is our shop where we have books and writing services. There is also our Redbubble shop where we have over 100 designs. So you can support us by going there. If you do not want to spend any money, that is fine. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share these videos. That really helps. So, what are we looking at this week? Well, one of the videos that we watched in January was the Grand Budapest Hotel by Wes Anderson, which we were surprised that we like, because we really do not like Ralph Fiennes. But turns out if he's not a romantic lead, we can probably stomach him. Interesting. So anyway, we looked at the Grand Budapest Hotel, which was très funny, très joli, and très interesting. And when we were watching the credits of that, we saw that the Grand Budapest Hotel was inspired by the writing of Stefan Zweig. And I thought to myself, I have some Stefan Zweig on my bookcase. I heard of it, many years ago, but I had not bought the book yet. I heard of it about 2019 when a stage production came to Sydney, and I read something about it then. And I remember the book, and then Penguin put out a translation of the book. They have been interested in Stefan Zweig's work lately, probably because of the Grand Budapest Hotel. So the book that we are having a look at this week is Stefan Zweig's Beware of Pity, or Impatience of the Heart. So, Stefan Zweig was, I keep the book down here because this funny thing plays havoc with my screen. Stefan Zweig was an Austrian writer. He was wealthy man. He came from wealthy background. He was Jewish, and he fled Austria in the 30s. At the time that he wrote this book, he was living in England, in, I think, Bath. He was a friend of Sigmund Freud. He then left England as the war got closer and went to America, and then to, I believe, Brazil, where he died. He and his wife took their own lives. Mostly due to, I believe, the anxieties that the war was producing on him. This is his, I think, his only proper novel. Most of what he was writing was very short fiction, much shorter fiction. I do have another very short novella by him. I think that it may be his last, or one of his last works, which we will have a look at. This is one of his few novels. So, this was written in 1938. As I said, it was written in England. But it is telling a story, although it is has a frame story. So when you look at something like the Grand Budapest Hotel, where you have the writer who goes to the Grand Budapest years after its heyday, after it has clearly been absorbed into a Soviet satellite state. Obviously, also in the film, it is very ambiguous. This is clearly part of the old. In this book, in Zweig, it is he is looking backwards to before the war, at the very dawn of the war, 1913, 1914, at the very tail end of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and that much of the story takes place in a little garrison town in Hungary, a train ride from Vienna. So like the Grand Budapest, it is a story within a story. There is a frame story that then has the main character tell this story too. There are other elements in this that did find its way into the Grand Budapest story, but it is more a question of the nostalgia and the frame stories that really are very much lifted from this. There is the narrative with the princess. There is also a narrative with a princess and an inheritance in this, but it is not nearly as madcap as in the Wes Anderson. So it is not a case that this book is, they are not the same thing. This has elements, the Grand Budapest has elements of this story, but it is not this story. So do not pick this book up thinking, oh, I am going to read the story of the Grand Budapest Hotel. No, that is not what this is. So what is this? This is a story of this is a story that an experienced military man is telling in 1938 in Austria to another man having been introduced by a mutual acquaintance. This military man, this war hero, is trying to explain a story from his past that is why he is so in some ways almost embarrassed by his military honors that he earned during the First World War. He would like to explain away his heroic action during the war in some way. So we go back to before the First World War, where he is a cavalry officer, poor officer with only his his income. He comes from a middle-class family that does not have huge income for him to do something like go to university. So he had been enrolled in a military academy, and at 25 he has spent about 15 years of his life in a military environment. So he is a 25-year-old young lieutenant, and he is given an invitation to a local landowner, a very wealthy local landowner, which he accepts. He seeks out this invitation, and he go to this dinner party. However, what he has not been told is that the local landowner's daughter is unable to walk. She has suffered an illness 5 years earlier, although it is not named. It is presumably polio. The girl was fine, fell ill, became paralyzed, has regained a degree of mobility in her upper body, but her legs remain paralyzed. This is a symptom of post-polio syndrome because the central nervous system has been attacked and damaged, and therefore signals no longer pass through the body properly, which is why this is not a curable disease even today. This is why we try to prevent that with vaccines instead of letting people catch this thing. This thing is horrible. So anyway, this young officer does not know that this girl of 17 cannot stand, cannot walk, and he offers to dance with her, thinking he is being polite. She is the host daughter. He really should be offering to dance, and she has a most hysterical reaction. Now, this is where the pity part comes in. The young officer is so mortified by the faux pas that he is committed. Now, there is no real actual... He cannot be blamed for something that he did not do, for extending the customary politeness to a young lady without realizing that this was a touchy subject, or that she was not possible for her to dance. And he is so overtaken by guilt at what he has done that the next day he sends flowers to her and strikes up an acquaintance with the family and starts visiting. And this sets in motion a tragic net that he cannot finds himself unable to escape from. He every time he think I go this far and no further, there is something else that drag him in, something else work on his pity, on his sympathy to drag him back in. The old man her father is distraught. There is a doctor. There is all these things. The girl herself is at one time quite enjoy his company, as the other time she have hysterics where she will basically tantrum and holds the entire household hostage to her mood, and everyone is like, oh, poor girl who cannot work, who suffers so terribly, and they let her get away with this. I will not tell you the entire story, only that he finds himself really, really stuck, like very, very stuck in this pity. And this makes me think, while I am reading it, very much of this pity is very much like the sentimental in the 18th century. This concept of pity, this concept of I am feeling this and I am unable to bear to hurt you. You are already hurting badly enough. I cannot add to this. But at the same time, there is a real quality of manipulation in all of the characters who evoke his pity. It is not fair for them to be like this for him. He is effectively a stranger who made a faux pas, and now he is very much entangled with their family, and very much unable to think of things for himself or make decisions for his own life without thinking of them too. The doctor who is attending Ellen, the young girl, the officer is called Hofmiller, Lieutenant Hofmiller. The doctor who is attending the young girl, he says there are two types of pity. There is a pity of I will say this to relieve my own feelings of discomfort. That has certainly been happening with this young man. I will use this I will use this. I will say what I need to say in order to alleviate my own discomfort in the face of these people's pain and suffering. The doctor then says that there is the other kind of pity, this self-sacrificing pity, which would lead one to sacrifice everything for another person. Mais I would actually say part of the issue with the character, the Ellen in this book, and with her father is actually both kinds of pity are corrosive. While the doctor is trying to help this girl, he is in some way stringing her and her father along with the idea that this is curable. He has a belief that nothing is incurable, that we just have not found the cure yet, which, okay, fair enough, medical science is constantly progressing. Mais this is not something that in 100 years has had a cure. This is a very, what has happened to her is not the result of an accident. It is not. It is an illness that is known to have these causes. That this is a known outcome. This disability is a known outcome of this illness, and that stringing them along with the ideas that maybe we can find a treatment that would work is just as much. Even though the doctor sees this as self-sacrificing, and he is seen as very self-sacrificing. This is very much still catering to that pity, even though he does not want to encourage the father who is constantly calling and pressuring him. His refusal to say the hard thing, to say, no, I am sorry, this may be the best that can be hoped for. You cannot hope for an improvement beyond this. This is already a massive improvement. Your life has changed. He is cowardly not saying that. And I think that this is something that we are more aware of now, as people with disability are far more visible in our society. Now, this girl is wealthy. She is able to have a great deal of the suffering of her disability alleviated by her father's wealth. A lot of the stigma of her disability would be alleviated by her father's wealth. We see this when she goes on a carriage ride with her cousin and her father and Lieutenant Hofmiller. They are not treated in any way lesser. They are treated with respect and dignity in spite of Ellen having this disability. So she is actually in a remarkably privileged position for a person with a disability in her time. But at this time, disability is sort of in a very different way than it is now. Partly because of visibility, partly because we have more avenues for people with disability to advocate for themselves, for people to advocate for them. And yet it is not necessarily a universal improved situation, by no means. However, when you do work or interact with people who have disability, it is the idea of pity, the idea of self-sacrificing pity to care for, is not one that imbues either person with dignity. It is therefore an uneven power imbalance. And that is part of what causes this tension within this book. There are the able-bodied people and there is this disabled girl. There is actually more than one disabled person in this. There is the doctor's wife is blind. And the people with the characters within the story who are disabled, there is a quality of and this is because of the time period, there is certainly a quality of feeling less than a able-bodied person. And yet, and this is what spurs the desire of Ellen to regain her former health. What would make her life easier? What would make her life easier is not pity, and it is not the false hope and the false promises of, oh, you may get better. What she needs is not pity, but somebody to explain, both to her and her father, that you have had a serious illness. This illness has changed your life. Your life will not be the same as it was. Your life will be different, but you are still a worthwhile human being, and your life is worth living. But you need to adapt to this. Now, this is not an easy thing for a person to do, to engage in radical acceptance. Her life would be better if she engaged in radical acceptance, accepted that this is an improvement on when I first fell ill. I can now engage with the world. I can have interest. I can have. I can socialize. I am more than a body that has been damaged by illness. Yes, this is not an easy process. This involves an enormous amount of grief and anger. Yes, and she is right to grieve and be angry at the loss of the person who she thought that she would be. She has been ill for 5 years. Her father has also been unable to accept this. Those 5 years, instead of becoming a petty tyrant in her household, this woman would have done better, this young girl. And I mean, it happened at the worst possible time at 12, so she get a life-changing illness and boom, puberty. Wow, little wonder she behaved, because she really does behave like a 12-year-old girl. Her brain is flooded with estrogen. Oh, she had a very hard way there. She's like, oh, ride the dragon and deal with this. So this is she is not in a good place for that. The pity is not helping her. The pity is the thing that is standing between her and processing and coming to radical acceptance. This is one of the things that is, I think, changed very much in the past 100 years. People with disabilities are far more visible, whether those are visible disabilities or invisible disabilities. People's interaction with people with disabilities is therefore, hopefully, one cannot say this in any way, shape or form as a constant, hopefully improved because of greater visibility. Hopefully, interaction is not, oh, pity that you have a disability, but who are you, person? Who are you? And how can you be best supported to live the best life you can? Not the life necessarily of somebody who has no disability, but what is the way that we can make your life the best that it possibly can be. Because we all know that some people are never going to be able to live without support. And that is not something that deserves to be pitied, but deserves, yes, okay, you require support, but that does not make you a lesser human being. And that is something that has very much changed. This is a book of its time. This is not how people with disabilities should be seen now. Also, this is a first-person narrator. And this pity that we are supposed to beware, this explanation that this narrator is giving, is he? And this is an important question. Are we, the reader, supposed to beware pity? To beware pity and not overly pity him. Not overly pity him, his weakness. Not overly pity him, gosh, he got out of that. Not overly pity him, oh gosh, how did he get himself so entangled? Is this another quality? How much can we be led along a path that we do not necessarily wish to share because we are pitying? I was not going to be caught in the pity that the author is perhaps warning the reader of, partly because my work means that I do work with people who have disability. And because I work with people who have disability, what this means is that I have a different relation to people with disability. I would not survive in my job. I would not be called back. I would not be given work in those classes if I treated students with pity, if I looked at students with pity instead of looking at, hello, you are, and treat them like any other student. Yes, you are in a class that is much more supported. You have a curriculum that is different from the mainstream students. You are still a student and you have a right to that education and you have a right to be treated with dignity. So I perhaps have more exposure to people with disability than the majority. So when I read this book, I look at this and see, what would help here is not pity, not even not sentimentality, not this sort of corrupted empathy that sees the disability and not the person. What is required of people in this story is radical acceptance. That does not make what happened fair. It does not make what happened easy. It is also, when you look at why is this happening in at the time, why is this a retrospective novel or a nostalgic novel? Why is this looking back to the past? It's also, I think you can also see the pity as a metaphor for the empire itself and the slowly walking into another dark future. Is pity in this book is something that almost happens to the characters. They do not will to do this. They do this almost as an instinct. They frequently find that they feel dragged along by pity, and perhaps he is also saying something about the politics of that time, that this by not paying attention, by not exerting appropriate energy, by just passively going along with things, his country and other and the empire that he formerly belonged to fell apart and is being dragged along into something else. These are things as well, they are not so strong. I personally read it very much with an eye to the idea of disability and how that is depicted and how that is different from my own experience and the experience of people today. Hopefully we do not see people with disability as an object of pity, and if that is your instinct, then I would encourage you to look at why that is, and to remember there is a person there. There is a person there, and that being pitied is not something that person is going to appreciate. I think that it is an interesting book. It is not a book that is using language that today we would find acceptable about people with disabilities. It is a historical piece and does need to be read as such. So I recommend it? Yes, I would recommend it. I think that it does have things to recommend it. It is probably not for everybody, but what is for everybody? Anyway, I will be back again with another book, not sure what yet, not sure what at all. So I will be back again sometime later with another book. Until then, au revoir. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.